Washington, D.C. is a cosmopolitan city full of history, culture, and political significance, with countless monuments, memorials, and museums to explore. Summer is DC's most popular tourist season, but the spring cherry blossoms and the colorful autumn months are also delightful times to visit. There's so much to do and see in the city, much of it for free, but often requiring reservations in advance, especially tours of the more politically sensitive locations. So keep that in mind as we roll through this list of the best things to do in Washington, D.C. First up, stroll the National Mall. The National Mall is a tree-lined park that stretches nearly 2 miles from the U.S. Capitol building to the Lincoln Memorial along the Potomac River. It's the heart of what most people think of when they hear Washington, D.C., and likely where you'll spend the bulk of your time as a tourist. This is where you'll find the majority of monuments, memorials, and museums like the Washington Monument, the Lincoln Memorial and Reflecting Pool, the Vietnam Veterans Memorial, the Korean War Memorial, and the World War II Memorial. Nearby in the Tidal Basin is also the FDR Memorial and the MLK Jr. Memorial. The National Mall sees millions of tourists every year and is a central location for political demonstrations, concerts, and festivals. Number 2. Take a tour of the White House or view it from Lafayette Square. The White House at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue is the official residence and workplace of the President of the United States and has been home to every president since John Adams in 1800. The White House is adjacent to the National Mall and can be best viewed from Constitution Avenue or Lafayette Square. Touring the White House is free, but reservations have to be made well in advance to give time for background checks. Next up, visit Arlington National Cemetery. Arlington National Cemetery is the final resting place of over 400,000 American service members. It's a place to pay respects to those who have served and to learn about American history. You can tour the cemetery for free or book a guided tour. Here you'll find the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, where the changing of the guard ceremony takes place, the Iwo Jima Memorial, the Women's Memorial, and JFK's Eternal Flame. If you plan to visit Arlington National Cemetery, please dress and act respectfully and avoid touching or walking on the headstones. Next up, visit the many famous museums. There's dozens of museums in DC, many of them free to enter, and many that take hours to explore. Several large Smithsonian museums sit along the National Mall, but also be sure to venture beyond the mall. There's far too many museums to name them all here, but some of the best museums you might want to explore include the Smithsonian Castle, the Museum of Natural History, the National Air and Space Museum, the Museum of American History, the Holocaust Memorial Museum, the Museum of African American History and Culture, the Museum of Asian Art, the Museum of African Art, the Museum of the U.S. Navy, the National Postal Museum, the National Gallery of Art, the Smithsonian National Zoological Park, and the International Spy Museum. And those are just a couple examples. It's important to check for fees, reservations, and timed entry for the museums you're interested in because policies can vary. Next, visit the U.S. Capitol Building. The Capitol Building is home to the U.S. Congress, the legislative branch of the federal government. Like the White House, tours of the U.S. Capitol Building are free. Tours typically last 90 minutes and include visits to the Crypt, the Rotunda, and National Statuary Hall. 6. Tour the Pentagon. The Pentagon is the headquarters of the U.S. Department of Defense and is located in Arlington, Virginia, just across the river from Washington, D.C. And it was once the world's largest office building. On your tour, the guide will bring you to the Pentagon Memorial, the Hall of Heroes, and the historic Inner Courtyard. You will also learn about the history of the Pentagon and the Department of Defense. Because the Pentagon is a politically sensitive location, you'll have to make a reservation several weeks in advance and pass the background check. Next up, visit the Thomas Jefferson Memorial. The Thomas Jefferson Memorial is a neoclassical white marble structure based on the Roman Pantheon and located on the shores of the Tidal Basin in West Potomac Park. It features a 16-foot-tall bronze statue of Thomas Jefferson, America's third president, the principal author of the Declaration of Independence, and a central figure behind the American Revolution. The memorial is free to enter and open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Next, tour the US National Arboretum. The US National Arboretum is a 175-acre botanical garden and research facility located in northeast Washington, D.C. is part of the USDA's Agricultural Research Service and is home to over 3,500 different types of plants, including trees, shrubs, flowers, and herbs. You can tour the Rose Garden, the Bonsai Museum, and the National Herb Garden. Entrance is free and it's open year-round except for Christmas. 9. Visit the house and stairway from the movie The Exorcist. If you want a change of pace from the historical and government tour sites, consider visiting the house from the classic horror film The Exorcist. Located in the Georgetown neighborhood, the house itself isn't open to the public, but you can walk up and down the steep stairway adjacent to the house. Just watch your step as it can be slippery. Also, remember that this is a residential neighborhood, so please be respectful of those who live there. 10. Visit Washington National Cathedral. Regardless of your religious beliefs, the Washington National Cathedral is a cultural landmark worth visiting for its architectural beauty and its historical significance. The Indiana limestone cathedral is of neo-Gothic design, inspired by the 14th century English Gothic style, and is covered with over 200 stained glass windows. It's the second largest church in the United States and has hosted many important events, including the funeral of President Dwight Eisenhower and the inauguration of President Barack Obama. Next, visit Ford's Theater. Ford's Theater is the historic site where President Abraham Lincoln was assassinated in 1865 while attending a play. The theater has a museum that tells the story of Lincoln's life and assassination and features exhibits on the theater, the Civil War, and the Gilded Age. The tour takes visitors through the theater's lobby, auditorium, backstage, and the box where Lincoln was sitting when he was shot. The theater does charge admission and the tickets can be purchased online ahead of time. Next, visit the US Botanic Garden. The garden, located near Capitol Hill, is home to over 10,000 types of plants from around the world and is open to the public for free. The US Botanic Garden has a large greenhouse conservatory that houses a variety of plants from around the world, including tropical plants, desert plants, and orchids. The National Garden is a series of outdoor gardens that features plants from different regions of the United States. There's the First Lady's Garden that features plants that were planted by First Ladies of the United States. There's also a rose garden, an herb garden, and a children's garden. While you can explore the US Botanic Garden for free, you can also pay a small fee for a guided tour. Next, visit the Library of Congress. The Library of Congress is the National Library of the United States and is considered to be the largest library in the world by number of books and other materials. The library's mission is to collect, preserve, and provide access to a comprehensive collection of recorded information in all formats and languages for the benefit of the American people and the world. It houses some of the world's most important historical documents. The library spans several buildings and hosts many events and exhibitions throughout the year. Entrance is free, but some of the buildings require timed entry reservations, so plan accordingly. And don't run off with the Declaration of Independence. Next, visit the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court of the United States is the highest court in the American federal judiciary system. It's open to the public for free, but does require passing a security screening. You can tour the courtroom when it's not in session, attend an oral argument, visit the exhibitions, or meander through the public spaces within. Last up, visit Anacostia Park. Anacostia Park is a sprawling 1,200-acre urban oasis situated along the Anacostia River with a diverse array of national landmarks, recreational opportunities, and natural beauty. You can go kayaking, have a picnic, go roller skating, go fishing, or just enjoy the river walk. Anacostia Park is a remarkable example of urban renewal, transforming a once neglected area into a thriving recreational and cultural hub. The park's diverse offerings and commitment to environmental sustainability make it a valuable asset to Washington, D.C. and a must-visit destination for visitors. There's plentiful opportunities to enjoy yourself in the U.S. capital city, from historical sites and political institutions to charming neighborhoods and natural beauty. There's something for everyone in Washington, D.C. I didn't even mention the diverse food scene or the cool neighborhoods, but trust, there's seemingly endless ways to pass the time as a tourist in D.C. Let me know if I missed your favorite D.C. activity. If you enjoyed the video, please give a like and subscribe, share with your friends, all that stuff. Love you all. Have a great day. Judiciary. The American Federal Judiciary. That's hard to say.